When you buy tires at Les Schwab, you're getting more than just tires. You're getting America's best tire warranty, 60-day satisfaction guarantee, no hassle road hazard protection, and free maintenance for the life of your tires. So if something happens to your tire on the road, we'll fix it, or we'll replace it, no questions asked. Other places make you pay extra for that kind of protection, but at Les Schwab, it's included with every set of tires, because more warranty means less worry, and nobody stands by their tires like Les Schwab. Get more from less.
For every generation, it has started with the call to serve. Discovering the purpose and the belonging earned with the title. Learning to dig deep and push through adversity together. Defending our nation and its people. It is a life of great worth and reward. But Marines are never really finished serving. Their commitment comes full circle, visible in communities across our country. This is Semper Fidelis, always faithful, always Marine, marking a path for the next generation.
From Glacier Peak High School, we welcome you to STSPN's coverage of the first round of the Washington's Boys Lacrosse Playoffs here from Glacier Peak Field in beautiful Snohomish, Washington. Hello, everybody. I'm Casey Bryant, bringing you exclusive live coverage of tonight's contest as the Issaquah High School Eagles pay a visit to the Glacier Peak Grizzlies. Issaquah, a 5-12 record in the regular season, 2-6 in league play. They ended their regular season with a 13-2 W over Peninsula. It snapped a 6-game losing streak. They went up early and often, 6-1 lead at the half, and they took off from there. They were able to get a dynamic 5-point outing out of Trey Gilbert, including 3 goals and 2 assists, a hat trick as well from Oliver Link. And from there, the Eagles were off and running, and they enter into the playoff scene on the right foot. Meanwhile, the Glacier Peak Grizzlies, a 9-game winning streak rounding out their regular season. Glacier Peak, top dog in Wesco Division 1. They'll be wearing their home white jerseys with purple trim. Issaquah, meanwhile, wearing gold pennies with purple numbers and those chrome purple helmets. Lining up at center field, 12 minutes on the clock for the first quarter as these two teams met almost exactly 1 calendar year ago today. Back on May 10th, 2024, it was an 11-10 overtime win for Glacier Peak, knocking out Issaquah from the playoffs. It was a 6-6 game at the half, 9-7 at the end of 3, and with less than a minute remaining, Issaquah rallies, they tie it, they force overtime, but Kyler Jensen proved to be the overtime hero, taking a feed from, at that point, Agard. And so now the table has turned. And Issaquah is looking for a bit of revenge nearly a year ago. Lining up for the opening faceoff. And away we go as it is flicked forward by Nigel Schlick. And on the attack come the Issaquah Eagles as it's lifted up into the air, bouncing over by the near side sideline. Loose over by the 35-yard line on your screens as Issaquah runs from left to right. Holding on and charging over to the left side. Issaquah setting up shop. It is Nigel Schlick. And they will go for some substitutions. Maneuvering the ball over towards the right side. Oliver Link spinning away from a defender. Link, a terrific goal scorer, 6 hat tricks in the regular season. They get it out towards the top of the zone. Tyler Morton moves it over to his left. Holding on to it is Jim Van Eed. Part of that dramatic comeback last year in the overtime game between these two squads in the playoffs. Way behind the net over on the near side of your screens. Tyler Morton holding. Crossing over to his left, Issaquah controlling possession for the opening minute. Stepping forward is Morton. Morton seizing the gap, trying to look for a shooting lane. Spins over to his left, crosses the field, and a rising shot skips well wide as Ben Snyder with the release, but Issaquah gets the ball right back. Holding way behind the net, Trey Gilbert. With a defender right in front of him, and Nick Reed. In check that Logan Crockett. Over to his left, Densley, trying to set up in front, and a shot that misses wide. Luke Densley, who ranked as one of the top scorers for Issaquah this year, 38 points, including 15 goals. A dangerous shooter from wherever on the field. Charging over to his right is Morton, trying to facilitate good offensive pressure to start here for Issaquah. At the far side, Van Eed. Stutter steps over to his right, and a hard right-hand shot that flails well wide, but Issaquah will keep it. Oliver Link, from deep into his zone, flicks it over to his left. Tyler Morton at the near sideline. Back out. Van Eed, the junior. Stepping forward, shaking to his left, nearly loses his footing, holds on to it, and a skip shot that misses wide of the net. Well, Van Eed trying to shake his way loose with a body directly in front of him. At the far sideline, Issaquah maintaining possession now for 2 full minutes. Ben Snyder stepping forward. Snyder gets by a defender, hits the brakes, and curls it back to the top of the zone. Tyler Morton hands it off to Van Eed. Van Eed over to Morton, stepping forward, fakes it over to his left. Has Crockett right on him, gets it out towards the perimeter. Holding on the near side, Oliver Link. Round behind the net, good movement, and a shot that's blocked up into the air. And racing over forward is Crockett. And Logan Crockett will win the foot race for the ball. And the first opportunity on the attack for Glacier Peak as they survive the early foray. Up the left side, Kian Jensen. Throwing it deep, stepping forward, Ewan Dickey. And he'll go off for a substitution as now it is the Grizzlies' turn. Around behind the net, Torben Agard, one of the most dangerous players you'll see in this league. Justice Reeves holding on to it, twirling at the near sideline, cutting to his left, holding over on his shoulder, stepping around behind the net, looking for Torben Agard, and it's past his stick and it'll be picked up by Issaquah. Agard and Reeves, a dynamic duo. Agard, 40 goals last season, this season up to 57. And a takeaway over at the far sideline. Back in come the Grizzlies on the right side. Agard sets up right in between the hash marks. A low shot. And it's in. They score. Nate Kaiser looked behind him. He thought that might have skipped wide of the net, but it just squips through the 5-hole. And the Glacier Peak Grizzlies have struck first. That was a good hard shot, and that's all generated by the takeaway by Torben Agard, leading the charge on the right side. It is Michael Bruchetta getting the game's first goal. Bruchetta came into his own this season with 53 goals as a sophomore, 14 hat tricks and 1 double hat trick over the course of this season. And it is the young gun getting the ball rolling here for Glacier Peak. Issaquah back in on the attack. Round behind the opposing net, Trey Gilbert. Over towards the far sideline. Over on the far point, Tyler Morton. As a flag is thrown. 4 minutes gone by here in the first quarter, and the Grizzlies lead it 1-0. With possession of the ball are the Eagles. And slowing things way down is Jim Van Eed as he goes around the field over to his left for Morton. Starting in with some speed, Morton slows up in front of the defender, Johnson. Back towards the 40-yard line, and running to his right is Ben Snyder. Distributes over towards the near sideline for Braden Korok. It is Oliver Link holding. Flicks it back out towards the 35. Stepping in, looking for a lane, the senior Morton. Morton back over to Snyder. Starting with speed over to his right. Short passing as Morton awaiting an opportunity, holding on his right side, gets it over to Van Eed, the junior. Van Eed, 5 points in his last 4 games, cutting in, a rising shot that's turned away. Terrific stop there by Maverick Manley, but the whistle blows.
Right, there was a delayed penalty on that. Looks like Travis Johnson.
A delayed penalty, and Travis Johnson will be escorted.
Issaquah will retain possession.
4 minutes and 46 seconds gone by in the first quarter. Issaquah with possession now on the penalty. They have had great time on attack, looking for more opportunities to get some looks towards Maverick Manley. Manley had himself a terrific regular season, 6-0 in league play, and there's a shot and they score, evening things up. Oliver Link will bury. And the Eagles have evened things up.
Issaquah goal scored by number 11, Oliver Link.
Well, Oliver Link in the regular season, 24 goals in 17 games played overall. 11 of those goals came in league play, and Oliver Link's best outing, a 4-goal game back on March 25th against Woodinville. 4 goals and a 14-4 victory. As the opening faceoff here, won by Glacier Peak, and they will set up. Picked up right at midfield and entering in is Justice Reeves. Reeves pushes over to his left for Agard. Now back out to Reeves. With a defender right in front of him, Reeves bouncing over to his left. Good speed. Reeves has open space. A low shot, and he scores. What a move by Justice Reeves. And that is terrific footwork there by Reeves. You see him playing possum over at the near sideline, waiting for his defender to make a move, and he cuts right on by, and Reeves allotted far too much space, and he makes them pay. Reeves in his last 5 games of the regular season had 11 goals, 12 assists for 23 points. 7 ground balls to go with it, too, so Reeves ended the season on a torrid pace. 6:48 left in the first quarter, and Glacier Peak has regained the lead. Battle for the ball, racing over to the near sideline, pushing and shoving, and scooped up by Glacier Peak. A good hard check, but held by Ewan Dickey. And Dickey looking for any opportunity to break into the offensive half of the field. Good footwork, shaking over to his right. And a whistle will blow, and it's picked up by Issaquah. Ranging in on the attack play, Blumenthal. And Blumenthal coughs up the ball. Battle for it on the far side. Gilbert kicking at it. Heavy stick check. It's picked up by Glacier Peak, and a good carry and a good effort there by Spencer Strasser. Gets it into the offensive zone here for Agard to go to work. Agard takes a hearty stick check from Domingaro. Agard around behind as the Grizzlies set up shop, and it is it is Justice Reeves over on the far sideline. And Reeves beckoning a man over to his left. He'll again charge up the right side. Reeves around behind. A good snag there by Crew Russin. Out to the 30. Taking the step up to his right is Bruchetta. And a bouncing ball is wide of the net, but picked up first by Glacier Peak. And Crew Russin, the sophomore, on a 9-game goal-scoring streak, distributes over to his right for Reeves. Reeves shakes away from a defender, cutting over on his left shoulder. An errant pass is well out of reach of Bruchetta. And Bruchetta racing over towards the sideline, but he'll lose possession. It'll be picked up by Issaquah. With speed up the right side is Nick Gaston, the defender. And the junior enters into the attack for the Eagles. Long stick over towards his right for Oliver Link. Link, the man through whom the offense is running for the Eagles. Back out to Blake Blumenthal. Over to his left and holding on to it is Jim Van Eed. Van Eed in the regular season, 12 goals, 22 points in 11 games played. 4:45 remaining in the first quarter. 2-1 Grizzlies, but the Eagles with possession of the ball. Van Eed stepping forward. Trying to buy some space, and a high shot that sails over the net by Oliver Link, but picked up by the Eagles. That was a good opportunity for Link as he was right there in the center of the zone between the hash marks. Densley moves it over to his left, back out to the 30. Tyler Morton fakes to his left, cuts into his right. There's a hard shot that hits off the outside of the net, picked up by Glacier Peak. Hard battle for the ball and a good takeaway. Here's Morton for the Eagles. And they will whistle away as Morton is being beckoned away from the ball. They'll say the whistle blew as they're trying to, I believe, insinuate that Maverick Manley had possession of the ball before it was knocked away from him. Up the left side, you see Manley emphatically gesticulating, trying to get it upfield. And the goaltender will shake over to his right, and a rising, lofting pass is over the head of an Issaquah Eagle, and it retains the possession for Grizzlies. It is Bruchetta way across the field for Justice Reeves. Over for Agard, stepping in. Agard cutting to his left. Has it poked away from him. A terrific defensive play there by Dom Ungaro, the junior. And Ungaro works it back to his netminder, Nate Kaiser. Battling through defenders. Good strength shown there by Blake Blumenthal. In on the attack of the Eagles. And Gaines had an opportunity to cut towards the net there. He elects to send it back and slow things down for the Eagles. 3:20 remaining in the first quarter. Blumenthal across the field over to Morton. Tyler Morton, a 20-time goal scorer in the regular season for Issaquah. Back for Jim Van Eed. Van Eed trepidatiously starting forward. Morton back out towards midfield. And seizing an opportunity up the right side. Good speed charging towards the net, but spinning away is Ben Snyder. A senior midfielder, Snyder, with an errant back pass. It'll be scooped up by Issaquah, but whistled away and picked up by the Grizzlies. 2:45 remaining in the first quarter. Good hard check trying to knock Spencer Strasser off the ball, but Strasser very sure-handed. Gets it over to his left for Bruchetta. And back out to Reeves at the near hash mark. Crossing over to his right, Kai Brooks, who had a breakout season for the Grizzlies. Spinning with the ball, Crew Russin. Back out to Brooks. Holding on the right sideline, stepping forward on Van Eed. Brooks looking for an opportunity. A rising shot, he scores! Kai Brooks with a snipe. Got it over the left shoulder of Kaiser. And the Grizzlies lead it 3-1. Well, Kaiser had difficulty seeing the ball through a sea of traffic in front, and you see him holding court in front of his net, trying to get the proper defensive scheme. And you see it is Jim Van Eed, the junior, that is leading the chorus in front of Kaiser's net. But it is Kai Brooks. Only 6 goals last season, this year up to 29. And he gives the Grizzlies a multi-goal lead with 2:15 remaining in the first corner, and possession back to the Grizzlies as they hurriedly work their way into the offensive zone. On the right side, Justice Reeves slowing things down as the Grizzlies get the proper substitutions. Jet Brooks holding over by midfield, and Brooks flicks it over to his right. Justice Reeves on the outside of the hash mark now starts in with the right side. Back out towards the slot, and there's a low shot that's blocked. Loose in between the hash marks, lifted up into the air and batted away from the net by Ungaro. Ungaro still battling, trying to swipe it away from the stick of Russin. It's up into the air, picked up by the Eagles. And Blumenthal skies it over the head of a friendly face in Nick Gaston. Picked up all the same by the Eagles, and Issaquah in on the attack with 1:30 remaining in the first quarter. Around towards the near side post, stepping in, a shot, and they score! Stuff in by Nick Gaston. And a terrific response by the Eagles. And that's a great charge upfield. The initial pass there by Blumenthal sailed over a bunch of heads, but it's a battle for a loose ball on the near sideline that Nick Gaston facilitates. And he has an opportunity to cut right to the net front, and he takes it all the way. And those are the kind of rush opportunities that Issaquah will have to capitalize on throughout the night. They like to work things very deliberately in the offensive zone, slow down the pace, keep the ball moving, and they win the face-off and into the offensive zone. Blumenthal over towards the slot. Spin move and a good check picked up by the Grizzlies. And slowed down by Ewan Dickey. Dickey skies it out towards midfield, picked up by Noah Eckerlund. Eckerlund carrying out the left side, takes a couple of hearty whacks towards the shins. And a whistle will blow with a final minute and a timeout.
All right. Timeout, Glacier Peak.
Glacier Peak will call timeout, and they'll slow things down with 1 minute remaining in the first quarter. And we'll throw it to a quick break. You are listening to STSPN's coverage of the first round of the Washington Boys Lacrosse Playoffs.
Dodging checks and breaking hold. But life like lacrosse can shift and sway. One bad bounce could ruin their day. That's where he comes in, tried and true, with coverage.
SWCC is an acronym, and it stands for Special Warfare Combatant Craft Crewman.
You know, you can stand across from the guy and say, you know what, he's got your back, and you know that's the guy you're counting on. If something goes wrong, he's going to be there.
In the end, we're just fighting for each other.
Full practice, switch doctor, requesting immediate hot extract, taking on
here on the team, about 22 of us on the boat. You know them personally, so you know exactly whose life you have in your hands.
Everyone's come together, and everyone's sole mission is to do their job individually as best they can to benefit everyone else in the boats.
I got a brotherhood, and it's a real brotherhood, and it's a loyal and honest brotherhood, and that's what matters.
Casey Bryant back on the call for STSPN's coverage of the first round of the Washington Boys Lacrosse Playoffs. 3-2 Glacier Peak. A minute remaining in the first quarter. Glacier Peak called timeout just before we went to break. Michael Bruchetta opened the scoring with goals following by Justice Reeves and Kai Brooks. Goals for Issaquah scored by Oliver Link and Nick Gaston. Holding at the near sideline is Reed. And Reeves powering his way over to his right. Pass down low and a shot that just missed wide of the net. And Crew Russin looks skyward. He knows he just missed. Russin used to find in the back of the net for Glacier Peak. Had 23 tallies in the regular season. Over back out to Reeves. Holding at the center of the zone. Shaking it over to his left. Holding on is Travis Johnson. Johnson back over to Reeves. Spinning off a defender. Staying with him Blumenthal. Round behind the net over to Agard. Torben Agard back out to Reeves over on the far sideline. Reeves holding on his left shoulder, cutting over to his right around Blumenthal, and there's a shot that's off a defender and loose behind the cage, picked up by Reeves. And Reeves flings it over towards Torben Agard. Agard back out to the high slot. Quickly over to the right side. There's Reeves with a shot, and he scores! Justice Reeves with a left-hand shot. Low to high with 6.9 seconds left. And Justice Reeves has his second of the game. Well, Reeves can absolutely wing it. Wasn't long ago that he had a 5-goal outing back on April 11th at Higley High School in Arizona, part of a 17-12 victory. Reeves with 3 hat tricks over the course of his last 4 games, and he's well on his way to another one.
Justice Reeves on the assist for number 11, Michael Bruchetta.
And Bruchetta will come up with the primary helper, and that is Reeves, able to buy himself so much separation through those stutter steps and that breakaway. And the first quarter comes to an end. It is a narrow 4-2 advantage for Glacier Peak, as Justice Reeves has proved to be the difference for the Grizzlies. And Issaquah dominated the time on attack, certainly in the first quarter, able to facilitate, but right now just trying to find those openings in the middle of the offensive zone. Right now they're being limited way far away from the net and over towards the sidelines. So much of their work being done by Van Eed and by the likes of Tyler Morton on the perimeter. You give credit to Glacier Peak for taking up a ton of space with their size and their stick length. Whereas right now, Glacier Peak, with the benefit of a couple of quick steps and a couple of powerful runners that they have in the offensive zone, they're able to buy themselves a lot more opportunities to cut in towards the net mouth. And you feel for Nate Kaiser because he's had the pressure bearing in on him the entirety of the first quarter.
And if your smile needs work, orthodontics is there for you.
And so for Issaquah, they've been able to hang in this very well. Talking about how Issaquah ended their regular season, they ranked 7th in the King County Division I division. They were 5-12 in the regular season, 2-6 in league play. Struggled to find victories in the second half of that season, but that 13th
Seattle Sports on 710 is your
Justice Reeves. And Reeves shakes and bakes up the right side. Reeves, round behind the net. Out towards the far sideline. Towards the high slot, Bruchetta. Bruchetta feeds Brooks over on the far wing. And that sails well high. And that will skip all the way onto the track, picked up by the Grizzlies once more. Anthony DiPietro hands it off behind the net to Crew Russin. Russin distributes over to Reeves. Reeves, spinorama, seizing some open space, gets over to the near side post, thrown in front. It's batted away with a good defensive play by Blumenthal. Hitting the truck stick was Brooks. And a loose ball is picked up, looking for Issaquah at center, and Issaquah will range in with some speed. Up the right side. High pass is settled, and a low shot is turned away by Manley. It was Luke Densley pulling the trigger. Densley, the senior, a goal and 4 assists in his last regular season game last week. And it set up a good opportunity. It was a high pass, and that was an athletic play there by Densley to even be able to get an offensive shot there. As up the right side with some speed was Oliver Link. And as they set things in motion with 3 minutes gone by in the second quarter, Issaquah trying to pull back within 1. It's 4-2 Grizzlies. A minute for cross-checking, penalty assessed to Glacier Peak. Issaquah with a golden chance here. Over to the near sideline, it's Van Eed. Protecting the ball over towards the near side. Densley looking to the near side post. No opportunity there for Gilbert. Back out to Densley battling for the ball. Nice opportunity, scooping up a ground ball. Still trying to vie for it. It's kicked over to the near side, and Gilbert will slow things down. Back out to Van Eed. That was a tricky battle there for Densley. Up the right side, Morton with a low shot. Turned away by Manley. Loose at the far post. Tucked in, they score! What a terrific effort there on the far side post by Ben Snyder. And the Eagles have pulled back within 1. And a flag was thrown there at the great opportunity. Again, that is all set up by the terrific battle for Luke Densley at the near sideline, establishing possession. He gets some assistance from Jim Van Eed, but a battle, and this is exactly what Issaquah needed if you flash it back to the first quarter. They needed more bodies in front of the net, opportunities to get chances from in between the hash marks and below the 20-yard line that you see on your screen, and they got it. And they are back within 1. Over to the far sideline as Glacier Peak has Marco Ashby on the case. Over to his right, charging in, is Jet Brooks. Brooks curling away from a defender, sets up the center of the hash marks over for Strasser. And Strasser will hand off to the ever-dangerous Justice Reeves. Reeves skies it behind the net. Russin over for Agar to the far sideline. Holding on to it with space, Michael Bruchetta. Bruchetta bounces off a defender, holding on his left shoulder, and way too high for Agard. That was a good job defensively there by Nick Gaston sticking him. Possession to the Eagles, and a high pass will find their netminder in Nate Kaiser. Kaiser surveying his options. Kaiser heads to midfield, picked up by Gaston carrying in. Nick Gaston over to his left, held by Densley. And Densley will trot on back towards the 40-yard line, awaiting some substitutions. He'll get it over to Tyler Morton. Held on to by the Eagles. At the far sideline, Morton finds Van Eed. 7:10 remaining on the clock here in the second quarter. Go, Jim. Van Eed, the junior, can rip it if given the opportunity. Van Eed is cutting right down as it's held at center by Morton, who starts forward. Morton looking over to Densley, quickly out to the slot, a load, a high shot that's just turned away. That might have just missed the net. Oliver Link fielding over at the far hash mark. Link back out to Morton, unable to settle it cleanly, but he'll get it back in the netting. And Morton seizing an opportunity, staying with him stride for stride is Dickey. At the far hash mark, Van Eed fakes to his left, cuts to his right, stops short. Trying to survey for passing options. Van Eed holding at the far sideline. Gets it around behind. Edging all the way back, Eckerlin is marking him. Van Eed spins to his right. Low shot that misses just wide. Maverick Manley again staying square to the shot over at the far side post. He hasn't been fooled by much yet. Over at the near sideline, holding on to it, Tyler Morton. And Morton will get it back out towards the 40-yard line, and striding on in is Ben Snyder. Snyder with Brooks right in front of him, gives it over to Morton. Inching their way forward are the Eagles as Van Eed has some space. Van Eed shakes around a defender. Bounce shot is turned away by Manley, loose at the far side post, and Manley will settle it down. That's a tricky shot there from the high over the right shoulder by Van Eed. Trying to catch Manley at an awkward angle, and Manley with a terrific stop. And up come the Grizzlies. Reeves. In with some numbers and some momentum. Around behind the net, Agard, as the Grizzlies turn to slow things down. Agard way deep behind the net. Cutting out with some speed over to the near side post. Agard distributes over to Reeves. 5:15 remaining in the second quarter, and Reeves will tap dance his way back out to the 35. And Reeves shaking over to his left. With him stride for stride is Aiden Kreider. Reeves to Brooks. Inching closer to the net around behind. Quickly worked over to the far hash mark. Bruchetta holding on his shoulder is back to the net. Taking a couple of hardy looks from Preston True, looking towards the net front, is cut off by the Eagles. Racing over, a pile up over at the far post, and a flag will be thrown. Well, it was a terrific commitment there by Issaquah, not giving up. The Grizzlies trying to push the tempo, push the pace. And you see the Eagles adjusting, having to stay on the balls of your feet the entire time you're in the defensive zone. Bruchetta gets a 30-second penalty for holding with 4:47 remaining in the second quarter. And the Eagles will go to work on their abbreviated power play, up a man. Over towards the right side, it is Morton over to, around behind the net. Towards Luke Densley. Round behind. Holding on to it, Van Eed as he cycles over, and a shot that just whizzes by. Looking for the left shoulder of Maverick Manley, and that didn't miss by a whole heck of a lot. Back with possession is Densley. Sends it over to Van Eed at the left wing. Van Eed sending it towards the net front, and a skip shot that misses just wide. That was Ben Snyder, the senior. Eagles moving the ball well, and they're starting to get their more shots towards the net front. Morton on the right wing as the Grizzlies get some substitutions working as they are back to even strength. Holding on the right wing, Morton. Spotting up in front of the net is Ben Snyder, trying to find an opportunity, cutting through as well as Oliver Link. As Morton has Dickey on him, stride for stride, spins away. Dickey throws a nice hearty shoulder check over to Van Eed. Faking to his left, Van Eed with a lefty shot that misses wide. Van Eed was knocked down for his efforts. A good check there by Spencer Strasser. Possession still to the Eagles, 3:50 remaining in the second quarter. Out to the far sideline, it is Morton. Starting ahead, good speed shown by Morton, trying to find some opportunities. You see the Eagles trying to send it right up the gut. Get to between the hash marks and start right in and hit the truck stick on some defenders. Trying to physically impose their will as you see Densley at the far side corner. Out to the center of the zone. Streaking ahead. Ben Snyder slowly back out to Van Eed. On the right side, shaking with it Morton on his left shoulder. He feeds an opportunity for Snyder looking towards the net. And that's scooped up on the goal line by Maverick Manley. Well, they've tried to test Manley low a couple of times, and Manley has been up to the task. 3 minutes remaining, and there's an errant pass forced there by Maverick Manley. That was good pressure there by the junior Trey Gilbert. And Issaquah gifted an offensive zone look. Van Eed at the near sideline. Van Eed has a body in front of him and Travis Johnson. Inching his way back out, he shakes on by him. Van Eed with some space. Throws it way high into the air for Morton to settle. Zips it over to the right side, and a low shot that misses wide. That was a good opportunity there for Oliver Link. Link, 24 goals in the regular season. He picked up the first of the contest for the Issaquah Eagles, who remain back on the attack. Morton trying to work his way in on Dickey, around behind the net to X. Back out to the near hash marks, Van Eed. Looking over to his right, cutting way wide, a loose ball over at the far sideline. Good battle for it, picked up by Glacier Peak. I believe possession still to the Eagles. And an opportunity for Ben Snyder. Inching their way in. Good, long offensive sequence here for the Eagles, who have solved Manly but 3 times. Around behind the net it goes for Link. Spinning with it, Van Eed. Van Eed looking for a low shot. Battle for it in front of the crease. Manly still reaching out for it. Loose on the ground, and Manly will settle it down. The Eagles trying to create some chaos in front of the circle there for Manly. And back up come the Grizzlies. Grayson Mitchell is heartily thrown down to the ground there by Van Eed. Possession still to the Grizzlies. As Kai Brooks up the right side. Boy, that was a heavy hit there thrown by Jim Van Eed. Minute 25 to go in the quarter and the half. Justice Reeves cuts over to his right. Reeves has an opportunity towards the near side post. Looks off it. High pass, battle for it behind the net. Picked up by the Grizzlies over towards the far wing. Held by Bruchetta. And around behind the net it will go. A whistle blows with 1:06 remaining. And the Grizzlies perhaps trying to calm things down. The Eagles will go for a couple of substitutions. 4-3 your score. A narrow advantage for the Glacier Peak Grizzlies, who are in on the attack. Travis Johnson has Reeves over to his right, finds him. Reeves
1 minute remaining in the half.
Up the right side, spinning with it over towards the near side post. Reeves will swap spots behind the net with Crew Russin. Reeves thrown in front. Opportunity there, turned away with a terrific save by Nate Kaiser. And that will bounce all the way back out to center. Well, that was a good hard shot there by Michael Bruchetta. 31.9 seconds remaining in the half. In come the Grizzlies. Holding onto it up top, Travis Johnson moves it over to Reeves, facilitating the offense once more. Reeves thrown back out towards Brooks. It's out of his reach. Battle for it at center. Luke Densley reaching out. Picked up for the Eagles. Densley trying to push the tempo. In with some numbers, an odd man rush opportunity, but the Eagles will call timeout, trying to set something up with 15 seconds left. And as the Eagles call timeout, so will we. 4-3 your score. You're listening to STSPN's coverage of the first round of the Washington Boys Lacrosse Playoffs.
Stop at 200 feet.
15 seconds left on the clock here in the first half. Issaquah trying to tie things up. They have possession in the offensive zone. Starting forward is Morton. They have to work quickly. Pass over to the far side. Hash mark is broken up. Loose over on the near side. Scooped up. Gilbert with 3 seconds remaining. It's stolen by the Grizzlies. And Glacier Peak will run out the clock.
All right, that brings us to
And that concludes the first half with your score. The Glacier Peak Grizzlies 4, the Issaquah Eagles 3. And the Eagles had an opportunity there to try to rush on in with some numbers. They elect to call timeout, slow things down, but a terrific defensive stand by the Grizzlies. And they maintain a 1-goal advantage. Flashing it back to last year, it was 6-6 at the half between these two clubs. And once again, it's a tight one here in the first round of the playoffs. We'll throw it back to commercial break. You are listening to STSPN's coverage of the first round of the Washington Boys Lacrosse Playoffs. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. How do you know all the names? A cheat sheet and a decent memory. Thank you.
Come with us. The new generation. The next level. Sending it big.
Oh my goodness!
You're in for a good run. Let's go.
Come with us to the track, to the trails, to the slopes, to the surf, to the fight, to the race.
Look at this!
To the 4 a.m. starts, training harder, pushing further, hitting back, hard.
I never turn on you, I get the gang on you. You better pray for it. I put that thing on you. You ever play with it?
To the fans, to the followers, and the haters.
But it doesn't matter.
Come with us to the blood, to the sweat, and the broken bones. Cue rehab. We never quit. We never give up. We take control. To the world titles. To the world's first. The world's best.
UFC Strawweight Champion!
Come with us. We're just getting started.
It's going to be so much fun. I promise you.
Casey Bryant back with you for STSPN's coverage of the first round of the Washington Boys Lacrosse Playoffs. Second halftime as the Glacier Peak Grizzlies carry a 4-3 lead over the Issaquah Eagles into the third quarter. Goals scored 4 in the first quarter by Glacier Peak. 2 off the stick of Justice Reeves. Goals as well from Michael Bruchetta and Kai Brooks. Issaquah scored 2 in the first quarter from Oliver Link and Nick Gaston. A second quarter goal from Ben Snyder brought the Eagles back within 1. And we want to welcome all of you to tonight's broadcast. A special thank you for everyone tuning in on the STSPN YouTube channel. Be sure to throw it a like and a subscribe. A special shout out to Rainier watching in Georgia and wherever you may be. Bouncing ball and in on the attack come the Issaquah Eagles, seizing the gap. With some speed was Nigel Schlick, and Schlick, boy, had a great look towards the net that he passed off instead as he gets called back towards the sideline. And it's picked up by Glacier Peak. There's a high pass and ranging over and heavy collision with Oliver Link coming together with a truck and Kai Brooks at midfield entering into the Grizzlies. Grizzlies over by the goal line. Brooks round behind over for Russin. Agard popping it out in front for Reeves, and he shanks it well high as that caught a defensive stick, I believe, as Reeves was trying to pull the trigger in tight quarters. Possession still to Agard and the Grizzlies as Agard has a pick thrown in front of him. Trying for a low pass over towards the far sideline, staying with him stride for stride with a heavy hit there is Davis McDougall. Over towards the far sideline, quick work there by the Grizzlies. They find Reeves over towards the near side post, spinning with the ball and a low shot. They score. What an effort by Michael Bruchetta. Bruchetta's second of the game, and the Grizzlies have restored a multi-goal lead. Quick work, 1 minute and 5 seconds into the third quarter. And that is clinical precision moving the ball around the offensive zone before finally finding its way over towards the stick of Bruchetta. And Bruchetta with the spin move cutting in down low, and you give him that much space and that tight of quarters, he will make no mistake. Bruchetta, a 53-time goal scorer in the regular season, led the team with 89 points total. 26 goals, 43 points in league play. And back in on the attack come the Grizzlies hunting for more. Grizzlies have not led by more than 2 at any point in the contest tonight. The Eagles have been able to keep things relatively tight and tidy. In between the hash marks, holding on to it is Bruchetta, facilitating the offense over to his right for Brooks. Slowing things up in Justice Reeves. Sends it around behind the goal. Calling for it Agard, and he'll receive over from the stick of Crew Russin. Agard, the senior. Cuts around a defender. Agard thrown out towards the slot and a low shot. They score. Terrific opportunity for Travis Johnson. Taking the feed from Agard. And the Grizzlies lead it 6-3. Grizzlies making quick work, striking twice in the opening 2 minutes of the third quarter. And pushing the tempo and getting more balls towards Nate Kaiser and net, obviously of paramount importance for the Grizzlies. They wanted to up their pressure, up their chances. Their shooting percentage is awfully high as they've been able to score from in between the hash marks down low. Really, we've talked about getting opportunities from below the 20. A lot of theirs have been coming from below the 15. As you look at the field on your YouTube screen. Back in come the Eagles. They have some work to do, trailing by 3 for the first time tonight. And slowing things down, maintaining offensive pressure is Blake Blumenthal, the senior. Blumenthal, a point-per-game player, gets it towards the net. They score! Answering right back for the Issaquah Eagles, Nick Gaston with his second of the night. Terrific entry there by Issaquah. And the Eagles, ever pesky, will not go away. And we've seen 3 goals already in the first 2 minutes and 8 seconds of the third quarter. And that's a terrific shot there by Nick Gaston. And Gaston in the regular season, 3 goals in 16 games played, not usually relied upon for his shooting prowess, but he has been in the right place at the right time as the Eagles win the faceoff. And shaking his way into the offensive end is Blake Blumenthal. Blumenthal sends it over towards the near side corner, picked up by Oliver Link. And Link stutter stepping back out towards the perimeter over by the 40-yard line for Blumenthal. Blumenthal evades a defender, has a lot of open space, elects to slow things down. Blumenthal can keep on running there. He's got pay dirt in front of him, as you really only have one defender to beat there, and Kian Jensen back for Glacier Peak. And if you're playing a kind of zone defense, as Glacier Peak seems to be doing, you can start to draw more opportunities and crash the net hard. Way away from the net behind. It is Trey Gilbert moving it over towards the near sideline, held by Tyler Morton. As Morton pushes to his left, pitch and catch there with Jim Van Eed. Morton starting in. Morton with a shot that just misses the far side post. And possession still to the Eagles. Good opportunity there, though, for Tyler Morton. Morton, 20 goals in the regular season. That was good for second best on the team behind only Oliver Link. Has yet to find the back of the net here tonight as the Eagles down by 2 with offensive pressure. Mounting here for Issaquah. Gilbert moves it out towards the far side hash mark, picked up by Ben Snyder. Snyder chased over towards the far sideline. Good pressure there by Johnson. Over to the near sideline, held by Morton. Cuts over to his left on his shoulder. A low shot turned away by Manley. High at the far side post. Tuck-in try by Issaquah is kept out. And what a terrific save there by Maverick Manley, who has been sensational in goal tonight for Glacier Peak. Over to the near sideline, picked up and held by Agard. And Agard shoved out of bounds, and possession will go to Issaquah. And carrying up with some speed, Van Eed. Moving it over to his right. Nick Gaston pushes by a defender. Gaston pushes well wide behind the net. Kian Jensen staying with him. Gaston trying to look towards the net front. Lost control of the ball. Battle for it over by the 15-yard line. Still reaching are the Eagles. They get it, and a shot that misses wide. And possession to Glacier Peak. Tumbling down to the turf there with a low chance. That was Chase Bobkowski. Kian Jensen in his own end gives it over towards his netminder and Maverick Manley. And Manley twirling, gets it up into the air. It's out of reach of his attacker. And picked up by Issaquah. And the Eagles, again, they have been able to control the ball for most of the game. Van Eed looking down low, and that's picked off out of the air by Manley. Right idea. They were looking for an airborne pass to the far side post there by Trey Gilbert. And that's just out of his reach as Van Eed is looking for. That would have been an alley-oop. Up with speed out towards the far sideline, out of reach of Glacier Peak. Battling forward is Luke Densley. Picked up by the Eagles and racing in on the attack. Here come the Eagles, and a shot by Van Eed is turned away by Manley. Up into the air again, cut off. Densley looking down low, all alone. Van Eed, he tucks it wide. Oh boy, the turnover as Manley has had some problems getting the ball away from his own net. He's turned it over in rapid succession twice. That one intercepted by Van Eed right in front. And he didn't miss the net by much. He has to work quickly as Manley pushes it up to his own man and Travis Johnson. The Grizzlies entering in with some numbers. Kai Brooks, skip shot, he scores! Well, after some torrential pressure down towards Maverick Manley at one end, he holds his ground, and Kai Brooks buries his second of the night. Third goal of the quarter for the Grizzlies. They lead it 7-4. And that is a tricky sequence there for Issaquah, as they had a couple of golden opportunities towards the net mouth, but opportunistic is the key word whenever, especially when you get to the playoffs. It's crunch time. You have to see who's going to capitalize on what few chances you're given. And right now, Glacier Peak burying a lot of chances. You're going to have to outgun them if you're going to win it, as carrying in and sailing it well high. Just a bit outside off the stick of Marco Ashby. Possession still to the Grizzlies. Torben Agard backing things up. Towards the 30-yard line, a flag will fly against Issaquah. It's held by Justice Reeves. And Reeves has Burketta over to his left. Instead, pushes it over to his right for Brooks. And Brooks starting in with some space. Brooks with a low shot, and he scores. Sending the hats for Kai Brooks. His third of the night. It makes it 8-4 Grizzlies. And the Grizzlies have been punishing the Eagles with these low shots towards the shin. They have been streaking in, all the momentum in the world pushing towards the net. And there is little encumbering Brooks on his way towards the net. 5:32 remaining in the third quarter. And a 4-goal advantage opened up for the Grizzlies, their largest lead of the evening. Nigel Schlick on the faceoff for the Issaquah Eagles, lined up against Marco Ashby. It's won by the Eagles and carried in with some speed. Over to the far post. Away with it is Morton. Back out to the far wing. Good protection there by the Eagles. And they will slow things down to a glacial pace over towards the 40 by Glacier Peak standards. Van Eed standing in front. Marked by Strasser. Good spin by Van Eed, opening things up on his left shoulder. Handing off to Snyder. As Snyder looping way around behind the net. Not a whole lot of motion from Issaquah on the offensive end, as they are leaving Van Eed and Snyder to do most of the heavy lifting with their feet. And they are fleet of foot, but things slowing down a bit for Issaquah. Got a battle to get open in the offensive zone, and you see some gesticulation from Gilbert trying to implore his castmates to keep on maneuvering through the offensive end. The motion was certainly there in the first half for Issaquah, especially in the second quarter. They started to pick up their pace, but perhaps the air let out of the balloon a little bit here in the third quarter, surrendering 4 quick goals in the first 8 minutes of the quarter. Over at the near side post, back out looking for an opportunity, Van Eed. A lefty shot, he scores! Jim Van Eed finds the back of the net for the first time tonight. And Van Eed, a 12-time goal scorer in the regular season for Issaquah, on the board, and they are back within 3. And Trey Gilbert will get the primary helper. Second goal of the quarter there for Issaquah. They have been outscored 4-2 in this frame. It is a 3-goal lead for the Grizzlies. Ground ball scooped up off the faceoff by Ashby. And the Grizzlies have some heavy pressure on the near sideline. Good maneuvering there by Burketta, the sophomore. And Burketta, one of the brightest stars for Glacier Peak. 89 points as just a sophomore on the attack. What an addition he's been to their roster over these last 2 seasons. Last year, 7 goals, 12 points as a freshman. And he has blossomed in a major way for the Grizzlies. Up the right side, entering into Glacier Peak, and there's a shot that's turned away by Kaiser. Picked up by Agard. Agard cutting over to his left around behind. Marked by Ungaro behind the net. Back out to the 30. Over for Reeves. Reeves, stutter stepping over to his right. Evading a defender. Maneuvering over for a shot from the far side post. That misses wide in this third quarter. Picked up by Reeves as he starts in. Holding at his hip. Zips it out towards Johnson. Fakes over to his right. Johnson trying to get a low to high shot off, and he's tied up. It's picked up by the Eagles. And the Eagles will motor through into the offensive zone. Picked up, starting through space. There's a shot off the far side, hash marks, that misses wide. And that was Luke Densley pulling the trigger, and Densley puts hands on head as he knows he has a golden opportunity there, but it's backed up by the Eagles, and they will maintain offensive zone time. Back out to Blumenthal at the 25. Blake Blumenthal over towards Tyler Morton. Morton has had the ball in his cradle an awful lot tonight. He gets it over towards his left. Ben Snyder starting in. Back out to Morton. Morton with a bouncing shot that's turned away by Manley. And that's another bouncing shot that's been picked up by Manley. They have tried to test him with these low chances, but Manley has stayed square to every one of them. Minute 45 remaining in the third quarter, as Manley calling for the ball way out of his own net. A low pass held by Glacier Peak, looking for a guard. It's loose, and a good spin move through pressure as Issaquah was trying to avoid heavy traffic. Nick Gaston was swarmed by white sweaters. And the Grizzlies, sensing a little bit of heat, will try to calm things down with 1:29 left in the third quarter, and we'll take a timeout ourselves. 8-5, your score in favor of the Grizzlies. You're listening to STSPN's coverage of the first round of the Washington Boys Lacrosse Playoffs.
Seattle Sports on 710 is your radio home for the Seattle Mariners.
Back, and over the wall for a home run!
Every home run, every strikeout, every Mariners win.
Swing and a miss and a slider, strike three, and it's over.
And catch the game on your smartphone. Download the Seattle Sports app to stream the radio broadcast of every Mariners game.
Goodbye, baseball! A walk-off two-run home run!
Seattle Sports is your home for the Mariners.
We're not here to take part. We're here to take over.
I am the beast.
Eight to 5, Glacier Peak. Offensive zone opportunity after the timeout with 1:29 left in the third quarter. Casey Bryant back for STSPN's coverage of the first round of the Washington Boys Lacrosse Playoffs. Issaquah won't go away as they have been trailing by as much as 4 so far tonight. Opened up here in the third. But they have been able to maintain enough pressure to stay within striking distance, and lest we forget their dramatic comeback last year in the playoffs against Glacier Peak. Never out of it at this level, but Justice Reeves sends it over towards a hat-trick man, and Brooks getting it down low, and a shot that's right into the netting of Kaiser. And that is a critical stop for Kaiser, who needs to feel the ball in his stick a little bit more tonight. And that is a terrific denial at the far side post. And Kaiser will carry it up himself. Kaiser bounces it over towards midfield. Picked up by Gaston, who sends it over. Gaston crossing the slot, and there's a low shot. They score! Back within 2 with less than a minute left in the third quarter. I believe that's Blumenthal pulling the trigger. And yes, indeed, it is Blake Blumenthal taking the feed from Gaston. Gaston with 3 points tonight. And Issaquah is within 2. It is 8-6. 57 ticks remaining in the third quarter. Battle for it at midfield. Hardy battle there between Schlick and Marco Ashby. Scooped up by the Grizzlies, ranging in with some speed. There's a low shot that's fought off by the elbow of Kaiser. And Kaiser, with some terrific hustle, is able to win the foot race and pick up possession there for the Eagles. Great sequence there for Kaiser. Taking an eye on the clock, 30 seconds. Speeding into the offensive zone is Dom Ungaro. Round behind for Oliver Link, 25 seconds. Link at the near sideline. skies it out towards the slot. Cradling it is Blumenthal over to his left, Van Eed. 15 seconds. Van Eed cutting over to his right shoulder, knocked down to his knees, retains possession of the ball, still tumbling down to the turf. It's scooped up by Glacier Peak. A good stick check jostles it free. 3 seconds left. A Hail Mary shot that misses wide. And that will do it for the third quarter. 8-6 is your score in favor of Glacier Peak. And again, we talk about history repeating itself a bit. If you want to flash it back to almost 365 days ago exactly, to last year's playoff contest, which went into overtime, it was a 2-goal lead for Glacier Peak at the end of 3 quarters. Van Eed struck with 52 seconds left. Link struck with 15 seconds left to send it into overtime before the Grizzlies pulled it out. Tyler Jensen taking the feed from Torben Agard. And what drama awaits the fourth quarter here? We'll take a brief timeout. You're listening to STSPN's coverage of the first round of Washington's boys lacrosse playoffs.
SWCC is an acronym, and it stands for Special Warfare Combatant Craft Crewman.
You know, you can stand across from the guy and say, you know what, he's got your back. And, you know, that's the guy you're counting on. If something goes wrong, he's going to be there.
In the end, we're fighting for each other.
Full practice, Witch Doctor requesting immediate hot extract. Taking on heavy.
Here on the team, about 22 of us on the boat. You know them personally, so you know exactly whose life you have in your hands.
Everyone's come together, and everyone's sole mission is to do their job individually as best they can to benefit everyone else in the boats.
I got a brotherhood, and it's a real brotherhood, and it's a loyal and honest brotherhood, and that's what matters.
Casey Bryant back for STSPN for live coverage of the fourth quarter between Glacier Peak and Issaquah. They start the third quarter, and that has made the difference so far. Brooks up the right wing. Brooks with a low shot. That catches the outside of the net. Kaiser in position there. Possession still to the Grizzlies. Brooks over towards the far hash mark. Powering through is Reeves. Reeves looking for an angle towards the net. Spins it over to his left shoulder, and he scores! Justice Reeves with a hat trick. Well, Reeves wants the opportunity to shoot from that left hip. That's how he scored twice tonight now. Reeves had 2 goals back in the first quarter, was quiet in the second and third. And again, it is Reeves. Second time tonight, 39 times he found twine in the regular season in 16 games played. 63 points, that was good for third on the team. And boy, has he been a force of nature in the offensive zone so far tonight. At center, carrying it forward for Issaquah, who once more trail by 3. Nigel Schlick into the offensive zone, pass down low, in and out of the cradle of Blumenthal. And Glacier Peak will air it out. Long pass by Manley as a punt essentially all the way back into the Issaquah zone. And they will charge forth. Ngaro. Carrying in, stops short, finesses it over towards Preston True. Towards the far sideline, Oliver Link. Link shoved down from behind, takes a two-hander, and that'll be a flag thrown against Glacier Peak. 10:21 left in regulation time, 9-6. Your score in favor of Glacier Peak, and the Eagles have been able to keep stride, but they have not been able to even things up since back in the first quarter. Issaquah playing a power play. And as the Eagles set up shop, they will send out Snyder with Van Eed and Morton playing the perimeter. looking down low for the feed. That's quickly off his stick and picked up by Manley. And the Eagles, frustration setting in as that's up into the air and held on by Grayson Mitchell. Mitchell trying to fly by Densley, he does. Chased down from behind, Eagles vying for it. Densley looking for it on the ground. It's picked up with a nice effort there by Michael Bruchetta. Possession back to the Eagles. Stick check at center. Picked up by Jim Van Eed. And Van Eed will motion a man over to his left and Densley. Back to Van Eed from the slot. Fakes the shot. Now he'll try it, and that one's blocked. And it skips back out towards the 30-yard line where Van Eed will dance away from a defender. Van Eed has a lot of room in front of him with Brooks marking. Kai Brooks a sturdy body in front of him as Van Eed looking for an opening. Fakes the handoff with Morton. Van Eed towards the slot. That pass off handcuffed Snyder a bit over at the near side hash mark. Morton cutting in towards his left, holding it on his right shoulder. Back out to Van Eed. Low to high. He scores. Van Eed for the second time tonight. And it's 9-7 with 9:01 remaining in the fourth quarter. And Van Eed with a terrific job in that offensive zone sequence. He's moving around from sideline to sideline. He's got a lot of gas left in the tank. A junior. 7 multi-point games in the regular season, 3 multi-goal games. Make that 4 now with this playoff performance. And remember, last year, Van Eed in that playoff for Issaquah, 4 goals, 7 points. He is a big-time performer. At the 35, and Issaquah will get the ball back. Good protection, sailed over towards the 25-yard line, battle for the ball, picked up by Glacier Peak. And Ewan Dickey will start forward. Dickey cutting over to his left, harangued there by Gaston, over towards Agard. And Agard maneuvering in with some space, and he'll slow things down. And Torben Agard, the senior, 32 points in his last 5 games for Agard in the regular season. A terrific playmaker as he cuts out to the near side post, hunting for an opportunity from the slot and unable to field it cleanly. From that position was Jet Brooks, as the freshman with a bit of difficulty. Possession still to Glacier Peak. Up the right side. Slowly but surely, Michael Bruchetta. And Bruchetta starts a pace, cuts one way, feigns another. Back out in front with an opportunity for Agard. Couldn't square it to the net. Sends it to the near side post and a shot. They score! Torben Agard. Agard with 57 goals in the regular season. His first one of this playoff. 7:48 left in the fourth quarter. It is now 10-7. And that is a terrific opportunity there for the Glacier Peak Grizzlies, who kept on maneuvering in the offensive zone, cycling. And they have been maintaining healthy activity in the offensive zone, and that's a major boon for the Grizzlies, who make their bread and butter by upping the tempo. Eagles entering in on the attack. Over to his left, holding onto the ball. Blake Blumenthal back out to Morton, over to his right for Van Eed. Morton stepping in, cutting to his left. Morton slows up. Back out to Van Eed. And a loose ball, Van Eed will have to scoop it up from the far sideline. And the Eagles will have to up the pressure a bit as Van Eed sends it around behind the net to X. Gilbert chased all the way to the near sideline by Logan Crockett with a good play. Out towards the 30-yard line. Taking the step in and a shot turned away by Manley. Maverick Manley. Terrific stop. You have to figure by the shot count, Manley probably has double digits in saves at this point.
Yeah, he's half the reason they are where they are.
Absolutely. Manley airs it out towards midfield. It's turned over. Manley has had some trouble getting it out towards a friendly face. And it'll be Jim Van Ee drawing a flag, and so a delayed penalty coming up against Glacier Peak. 6:35 remaining in regulation time, and the Eagles will have to work quickly. Got to average a goal every 2 minutes and 10 seconds from here on out. And Morton hanging on to things as the Eagles bunch up in between the hash marks. Morton striding to his right, curling away from the oncoming Jet Brooks. Morton trying to buy some space. He's being wrapped up from behind, dishing it over towards Van Eed, and a shot. He scores! Van Eed with his second of the quarter, his third of the night, a hat trick for 22. And it's 10-8 with 6:03 remaining. And this is the kind of night that it's been. Third hat trick on either side. Two for the Glacier Peak Grizzlies, as Reeves and Brooks each have 3. And now joining that club, Van Eed. 6:03 remaining in the fourth quarter, and still some drama as the Grizzlies holding on to a 2-goal lead. The ensuing battle at midfield won by Issaquah, and ranging in is Blumenthal. And Blumenthal and the Eagles will call timeout as Issaquah wants to talk things over with 5:57 remaining in regulation. Eagles hunting for a comeback. Glacier Peak looking for back-to-back playoff victories against the Eagles.
I don't know if that was a timeout.
And some substitutions being made. And a quickie called by Issaquah, just trying to get the right contingent out on the field. And up with some speed. Van Eed sends it over towards the far side for Gilbert. Morton holding at the 25. Back out to the high slot. Quick movement. Link to the far side post, having some trouble settling it down. Battle for it for the Eagles, settled down by Van Eed. Behind the cage, surveying, hunting for options. And Van Eed zips it out towards the 25. Morton to Link on the far side. Ben Snyder sends it to the far post. Playing the perimeter, hunting for options down low, inching their way in. Link quickly over to Van Eed. They swap spots as Van Eed distributes to the far hash marks. Pitch and catch with Snyder. Morton to the near side on the goal line. Gilbert thrown out, stepping in is Van Eed, holding on his left shoulder. Van Eed with a shot that misses wide. Good opportunity there for Van Eed, shooting on his offside. 5:03 remaining in regulation. Eagles still on the hunt. Out to Van Eed at the 35-yard line as Issaquah will slow things down and reset. Van Eed cuts, an ankle-breaking move as Van Eed gets some space. Has the ball chopped out of his stick and picked up by Glacier Peak, and that's great recuperation there and an effort there by Grayson Mitchell, helping out his befallen teammate in Logan Crockett. Taken right back by Issaquah, and in comes Van Eed. Van Eed across the 30. And the Eagles deliberately getting to their rightful spots. 4:20 remaining in regulation, and the Eagles having to up the pressure a bit. And you see they're still not pressing the panic button just yet. Charging along the goal line, out towards the near side post. Gilbert, unable to get an opportunity down low. They'll throw it in between the hash marks. There's a flinging shot there off the stick of Oliver Link. That misses well wide. And Link has been suffocated since getting the opening goal for the Issaquah Eagles back in the first quarter. 4:05 left in regulation. Out to the far sideline. Link chucks it over towards the near hash mark. Morton looking for a man in Snyder that's out of his reach, and Link will battle for it at the far sideline. And he keeps it onside for the moment. No, taken away by Glacier Peak. And an unforced error there on the part of the Eagles, and it opens up an opportunity here for Glacier Peak. 3:40 remaining as the Grizzlies have Ryan McCauley leading the charge into the offensive end. He'll give way to the elder statesman and Justice Reeves. And 3:25 as Reeves content to let the clock tick away. Time the enemy of the Eagles, Grizzlies, on their home turf protecting a 2-goal lead. Kai Brooks back to Reeves, holding at the 35. Reeves trying to force the defense to make a move. Gets it over to his right. Feeds a man stepping in Brooks. Brooks with a shot, and he scores. Squeaks it through the near side post, just past the arm of Kaiser. Kai Brooks with his 4th of the night, and the junior restores a 3-goal lead for Glacier Peak. And jubilation on the Grizzlies sideline as they can sense victory inching ever closer with 3:03 remaining. And if the Eagles are to work their way back to even, they are going to have to move with a fervor. 3 minutes flat remaining in regulation time. It is 11-8 in favor of the Grizzlies. Glacier Peak will scoop up the ball and enter into the offensive zone. A quick shot, and they score! A dagger from the far sideline by Michael Bruchetta. And Bruchetta has himself a hat trick. Two goals within the span of 10 seconds. And it is a 4-goal lead restored for Glacier Peak. The Eagles' forward momentum because once they score once, they score twice and 3 times in rapid succession. They catch Issaquah a bit flat-footed in trying to regain their bearings after allowing a goal. It started the 35-yard line, picked up by the Eagles, still trying to buy themselves some space. Nigel Schlick vying for it, loose at the near hash marks, lifted up into the air. Eagles pressuring, Blumenthal, breakaway, low shot, stopped by Manley. Maverick Manley with a terrific save.
He is a Maverick.
Indeed. Or you've got 3 different players with hat tricks. On the Grizzlies side, you have to give your flowers to their netminder as well, as there's a shot that misses wide coming off the stick of Reeves. Minute 48 left on the clock. Thrown their way by the Eagles. And
nobody stands Les Schwab.
Casey Bryant, their live coverage of the first round of the Washington Boys Lacrosse Playoffs. Maverick Manley with a slew of stops. And the Grizzlies have but 90 seconds left to fend off. As there's a pass back to Kaiser in front of his own net that's out of his reach. It'll be picked up by the Eagles, and they will start forward. And the Eagles start forward. And the Eagles in dire need of pressure. They'll need a goal in 20 seconds. Home run pass to Blumenthal, bearing down on Manley. He's tripped up from behind as he tried to pull the trigger over the right shoulder, and he got a stick catching him up high. Minute 13 left in the Eagles with possession still. Out to the far sideline. Taking the step up is Morton with a minute 5 left. Van Eed sends it to the far hash marks, and a low shot turned away by Manley. Down to his knees to stop that one, and he'll smother with the net. And will you give all the accolades in the world to Glacier Peak defending their home turf with great aplomb? And of course, you give a hearty salute to the seniors of the Issaquah High School Eagles as Justice Reeves entering into the offensive end. Back out to 35. Landon Armstrong over to his left. Carried in by Bruchetta. Bruchetta with 30 seconds left protecting the ball over towards the near sideline. Holding onto it at his hip, he sheds a defender. A great effort. It'll draw a flag. Bruchetta curling towards the hash marks. Bruchetta dancing in, and he scores! A Herculean effort by Michael Bruchetta. Icing on the cake with 18.2 seconds left. Bruchetta grabs his 4th of the night. And that was as slick comes. Little bit of speed, little bit of strength, and a little bit of finesse to cap it off. Back years by Glacier Peak. Of course, a congratulations to the seniors of the Eagles, Luke Densley, Chase Bobby Eagles, Luke Densley, Chase Bobkowski, Ben Snyder, who had a terrific game tonight, Tyler Morton, Blake Blumenthal, and of course, netminder Nate Kaiser. 13-8 your Kai Brooks. Justice Reeves nets 3. And overall, a terrific performance from Glacier Peak. They got the stops they needed, and they worked quickly and often. Unsure what the official shot metrics are, but you have to believe that shooting percentage was awfully high for Glacier Peak tonight.
Let's remind everybody that exclusively on STSPN will be the girls' state championships and all 4 of the boys, 4A, 3A, private, 1A, and 2A.
Absolutely. That's coming up on May 24th.
That is May 24th and May 16th for the girls.
And May 16th for the girls. And that's all going to be taking place at the Starfire Sports Complex. And that is going to be an unbelievable event. You are going to want to subscribe to STSPN's YouTube channel. Follow along on Facebook and Twitter, wherever you get your high school sports news. And, of course, a special shout-out to the Elvig, Sarah, and Todd for running the show. Thanks so much for all the hard work that you guys do putting on the best presentation of high school sports in all of Washington State. That'll just about wrap things up here from Glacier Peak High School. Thanks so much for tuning in. And for all of us at STSPN, I'm Casey Bryant. Have a good night.